There's only 4 episodes left of season 7 of Clone Wars. And if I were to judge it so far, I would have to say that even though this season has had some pretty decent episodes, I don't really hate anything or anything like that. It's definitely been a big disappointment compared to seasons 5 and 6, which were, I think, just the peak of the series. However, with this final arc, this is the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, starting with season 7, episode 9, called Friends Not Forgotten. Things really seem to be ramping up into high gear, and finally with this episode I can say that this is the kind of action that I was expecting. This is the kind of episode that I wanted from Clone Wars Season 7. That's what I wanted, because it really felt like that real Star Wars adventure story. I mean, even the beginning of the episode, they have like the classic, like the John Williams fanfare, with the old green Lucasfilm Limited letters from the old release of the original trilogy, which was great nostalgia for somebody like me who grew up with those films on VHS. And then seeing like the Star Wars Clone Wars intro, which reminded me of the Clone Wars movie, like the opener just fly back, that logo, I knew they were doing something special, to the point where I thought that I had clicked on the wrong episode. Like, I thought I had maybe hit the wrong button, but no, it was the right episode. And, the opening scene with Obi-Wan and Anakin being pinned down by the droid army, like, there's only 1,000 droids, Master, and he's all overconfident and, being the hero that he really was during this era, especially if you watch the show. And then, like, them doing kind of a throwback to the Return of the Jedi thing with Luke and R2 and the lightsaber. I loved it. It was really, really, it put a big smile on my face. So Obi-Wan and Anakin, especially Anakin, receives a special galactic phone call from Ahsoka Tano, which is basically playing off what happened in the previous episode, which is the discovery of the Pikes and, Darth Maul. I mean, she doesn't know the details of that yet, but the fact that the Mandalorians have returned and that there's a problem. But this is the first time that Ahsoka and Anakin have seen each other in a very long time, and could be one of the last times that they would see each other, at least coming, because Clone Wars is almost over. 4 more episodes left. Could be one of the last times they see each other until Rebels, when he's already Darth Vader. He's already been poisoned by the dark side. And so Ahsoka tells Anakin and Obi-Wan about Maul. So they all go meet up with her to go eventually catch Maul. That's the goal. So they pretty much discuss what they're going to do. And then we have this really nice moment with Anakin and Ahsoka Tano back together again, kind of walking down this hallway where he introduces her, or reintroduces her, to the clone troopers who are going to be helping her in this siege, of Mandalore. But is it really the siege of Mandalore? Probably not, but we're going to get to it here, because I don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 episodes. Now, things get really interesting here in this next scene. I'm not going to do a scene-by-scene breakdown, but there's just a lot of stuff that happened in this episode that I want to kind of digest here and talk about. So, obviously, we have the scene where Anakin gives, I was going to call her Shakti, but no, that's not her. Ahsoka Tano back her double lightsabers or whatnot. You're going to need these or whatever. But before that, we have a very interesting scene where they decided to divide up the 501st Clone Legion, with Rex going with Ahsoka to Mandalore. But the reason why I have to divide it up is because there's been an attack on the capital city of Coruscant, and the Chancellor's been kidnapped by General Grievous. So now we are literally right at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. This saga, this Clone Wars series, is now coming to an end, appropriately so, like the original 2003 Clone Wars series did, right as the attack and the siege of the Chancellor happens, which is going to go right into the story of Revenge of the Sith. So you are now supposed to watch this series. I mean, obviously the earlier episodes are out of order. We know that. It's been a thing that went on for a while. You can't just watch season 1, 2, and 3. You got to go and look up the Clone Wars proper order. You can just Google it. But at least for season 7, we now know for sure that it's going to go right up until Revenge of the Sith, because right now we're just, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but we're right up to the siege of Chancellor Palpatine. And that, to me, kind of made me very interested, because it almost made me sad in a way, because now we know what's going to end up happening. And the ultimate tragedy is, there's not only is the series coming to an end, but the story of Anakin, Obi-Wan, all this stuff. The story of, I mean, not literally as far as them them being alive, because they wouldn't pass away until other movies later on, the original trilogy. But, you know, the story of these characters in the Clone Wars, the Clone Saga, the prequel era is coming to an end very, very soon. You know, especially if you go watch Revenge of the Sith right after this season ends up airing. Guys, the scene with Ahsoka taking on the Mandalorians when they're landing the craft, when the invasion starts, this finally felt like Star Wars. Like, it felt like the adventure series that that Star Wars has given us, and that the Clone Wars can be, and it was great. I mean, I've talked about in the last video about how Ahsoka Tano's getting very long in the tooth, and she is, and I worry they're kind of threading that razor's edge with overexposing her, but I feel like, honestly, like, this was good stuff. Like, this was, you know, more, I guess, more stable writing, if that makes sense, of the character, and just kind of keeping it focused on the story they're trying to tell. They had a really cool little throne room battle, or whatever you want to call it, this sort of room, this big room with a bunch of Mandalorians, and it was great because you're seeing the Mandalorians and the clones, they're fighting, but you're seeing all these different, like, kinds of armor, different colors. You're seeing the flamethrowers and the little, like, wrist shields, and it was a fun little fight. It was good to see the different technologies kind of clashing here in this close to one of the final battles of the Clone Wars. And it's something that we didn't even know really happened, not to this detail anyways, during the time right before Revenge of the Sith. But it turns out that Darth Maul was purposely planning a trap for the Jedi, specifically probably Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because we know that Maul never forgot what happened during The Phantom Menace, but we all know that that does get paid off in Rebels. And that's the one thing I will say, is that knowing that nothing really happens to Darth Maul because he's in Rebels, same thing with Ahsoka Tano, it does in a way take away from the drama of the fight, even though we know what's going to happen, we know they're both going to survive, you know, and it doesn't always happen this way, but I feel like, you know, it would be a lot more meaningful if we weren't sure, but they couldn't do anything about that because obviously the other material was produced prior to this, and if this had come on order before Rebels, it would have been a different story. We would have maybe assumed the worst for either character, but because we already know, I don't think it really takes away from, you know, the story they're trying to tell, but it does take away from the drama of one of them possibly having their life endangered by the other, because it is an intriguing fight, you know. Ahsoka Tano, Anakin Skywalker's former student, who is very well equipped with the Force, against Darth Maul, who was Palpatine's earlier student from a decade before, so a little bit over a decade before. So to me, it is an interesting battle on paper, and from the trailer, it looked good, so we'll see where it goes from there. So the cliffhanger of the episode is Ahsoka in these tunnels, and she's surrounded, and then Maul actually does appear out of the shadows, and he even admits it. He says, you know, I was hoping for Kenobi, you know, because that's the guy who he, like I said earlier a few minutes ago, that's the guy who he wants revenge on, wants his vengeance on, but instead he got Ahsoka Tano. That's fine. That's going to lead to the next episode. Like I said, we got 3 more episodes to go after this one, then the Clone Wars series is over. Like I said at the beginning of the review, I'll be honest, part of me kind of thinks that if you're going to watch this season, you can probably skip the first 4 episodes. I can't say that confidently because it might come back and tie into the end, to the last 3. But as of right now, it does feel like that first arc was kind of pointless. And really most of the second arc from episodes 5 through 8 was a little bit pointless. But this is where the Clone Wars are now kicking in. I got to see, you know, the classic Jedi of old from the prequel era. Ahsoka's getting her own adventure. Maul is back. We're seeing kind of the tie-ins to Revenge of the Sith. So I'm very, very pleased with this episode, and I really, truly hope that the next 3 episodes are going to be a rocket buster of a finale, you know, for this series. And I think they will be. I saw some, obviously the trailer showed a lot. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen, but we're right there. You know, we are right there close to the end, and it's going to be bittersweet, you know, because again, Season 6 I thought was phenomenal. Like, almost every episode, I think, except for maybe 2, were just completely the top-notch quality lore-building stuff. Especially that Yoda, like, side quest at the end of the season. I loved it so much. But this right here, this episode to me felt like that and how this season should have gone. And I know they had to build it up, but it just feels like now the payoff is coming together. So overall, this was a thumbs up. I did enjoy Clone Wars season 7, episode 9. Friend Not Forgotten. Let me know in the comments what you think. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward next week to seeing where this goes, and 3 more episodes to go. Like I said, thank you again. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk soon.